Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another THRIVEcast. My name is DJ Eshelman, here with you once again. And yeah, you know what? I am looking forward to today. Today's going to be a great show. And if you're joining with us live, say hi. If you're joining with us after the fact, make a comment. It's all good. So I'm going to bring Jeff on first. We'll have a little chat before we introduce our special guest today. Jeff,
Good
how's it going?
morning or afternoon. Afternoon for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sun's out, fun's out, right?
Well, you have sun out. We don't.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I don't even have my lights on today. I'm all naturally lit today. I'm like, wow, this
Ooh.
is cool. Yeah,
Yeah, we
natural
had
sunshine and everything.
thunderstorms roll through last night or yesterday, all day yesterday. And during one of the breaks, I went outside to get a couple things done real quick. And there's hail on the ground. And at first I'm thinking, oh,
Oh,
good Lord, it's snow. At least it was hail, but that's not that much better. Good times.
well, yeah. I guess
It's
fall is
that
upon
time
us
of year
here.
for Michigan.
Yeah,
We've literally dropped 30 degrees in the past 4 days, temperature wise for highs. Yeah.
yeah. That's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Actually, I might have to take the air conditioner out of the window mount here soon, but it's all good.
Uh, yeah, that's what I'm looking at doing too.
So our guest today has no idea what we're talking about. Living in the sunny state of Florida. Jen Sheerin is a end user compute specialist. I say she's more than that. I think she's more than a specialist. I think she's really something. Yeah, well, she is something special. We'll put it that way. But she's got over a decade of experience doing this. Areas of expertise are in Citrix, virtualization, networking, and of course WVD. We're going to talk a lot about that. She was with me in the Citrix Technology Advocate program when I was there. That's where we met. So I'm really excited to have her on. She's also a Microsoft MVP for enterprise mobility, and very cool. Yeah, we're going to talk really soon here about. She's actually the founder slash leader slash awesomeness of the USA Windows Virtual Desktop User Group. But today we're especially going to talk about things like being a CUGC Women in Tech mentor, along with some other things and the Tampa Bay user group community leader as well. So welcome, Jen Sheerin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. And thank you for that awesome introduction.
Well, I try. So Jen, you're from the Tampa Bay area, right?
Yes, sunny
How's the
Florida.
weather down there? We got to start with that, right?
Yeah, it's sunny. I'm sorry, Jeff. It's sunny.
No, you see, but you have sunny now. You have hurricanes later. So,
Right. It's a
I'll take the
back
cold
and
and
forth.
snow.
This is true. And hopefully we're winding down. It's starting to get a little bit cooler now. Um,
I don't know the way this year has gone. Who knows if it's gone or not?
It's true.
Indeed. Hey, I like the book on your table there. That's
Oh,
pretty
yes.
cool.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I bought this book, thinking that we were going to see each other this year and you
Right.
were going to sign it for me.
Yeah, it's still yeah, I don't know if it's a possibility for this year, but guaranteed, we'll make
Yes,
that happen.
definitely. I miss that. I miss that we weren't able to meet in person, get to catch up.
Yeah, it's been a it's been an interesting year, let's put it that way, but I think I'm hopeful for normalcy on the horizon where we can actually talk to each other again and sign each other's books and all that kind of stuff.
In
Oh,
person, face to face, it's always a good thing.
by the way, guys, I thought I'd mention this too. Last night, I actually submitted the final revisions for the hardcover copy for the new book. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh.
We do have a special for folks out there. Uh, so it's the Citrix Hero book, which is awesome. My new book on hardcover, and the 48 Days to the Work You Love for those of you that are here in the US. You'll get that as a bundle. If you're not in the US, what I've arranged for is the other two books. Unfortunately, the other one I can't do because it's not in my kind of network. But so that's something going on until the end of October. So take advantage of that. So let's dive into this. Jen, tell us a little bit about your early life. Did you grow up in the Tampa area?
No, no, actually, I am actually from the Caribbean. I
Oh,
grew up
cool.
and, it's sort of funny because, I didn't, actually have a landline phone at my house where I lived. They didn't have wires run through that town until I was a teenager.
Oh, okay. So the cool thing about that is you and I have that in common. Actually, kind of flipped. So where I grew up in a city in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and then we moved to the middle of nowhere. We didn't have phone until I think I was a teenager before I got a phone again. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I'm
So,
guessing,
it's very
I had to wait for cable to come in. We were one of the last areas. Cable is that not the same? MTV, man, in the 80s. I missed it. Come on, a lot of it. Not the
so
same, but
yeah, so electricity but no phone.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
see, I guess you had that on me, but so so how did that kind of where to go from there?
So, I did, computer classes in college just like everyone else, but no computer at home.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so I spent a lot of time in the lab, right? And then when I migrated, my brother actually lives in Florida, and that's how I ended up in Florida. And started my first IT job was it actually at IBM doing end user support on the phones.
All right.
So I did phone support, tech support when there was no remote capability to go to
Hmm.
meeting or take over yeah, you just all on the phone, blind and no hands.
Yes, I remember those days.
yeah, you look back on those days and it's like, how did we do it? Because
Right.
people come up. I mean, if you look back and see stories like about the lady that got a computer and couldn't get it going. And they eventually found out she thought it was like a sewing machine and was using the mouse as a foot pedal type thing. I mean, just crazy stuff.
Yeah. I had the coaster was my favorite, but yeah, I
Yeah.
remember those days of like, and I guess nowadays it's literally yesterday had a similar scenario where somebody couldn't figure out how to do the screen sharing anyway. So it's like, it's a skill set that is always going to be important. That aspect of learning how to, listen to how people are describing things and kind of help them describe it to you, that sort of thing. It's like that initial personal skill that, it's I don't want to knock on like developers and programmers and things like that, but those of us that kind of started in those help desk roles, I think we had something special kind of starting us. We kind of learned how to discern.
Yeah.
So how long did you serve in that help desk capacity at IBM?
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. A few years. I think it was a few years. I was pretty young. I, you know, it changed, and then I just ended up being system admin type role at some point. But yeah, it was anything and everything from hardware to software, OS, and that was sort of pre in popular internet, I would say.
Okay.
where, you weren't downloading stuff from the internet, dial-up modem type scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything was physical, and then there was, fast forward, we're in a virtual environment with virtual.
Mhm.
Um, I will say that when this was at IBM, but I touched everything, Apple, Windows, and
Right.
OS2, and I remember Citrix, and I remember, uh, you know, r terminal server separately. And it's funny that today, it's so much part of my world.
Yeah, it's funny how those things kind of come around where there were things that were kind of on the periphery or they were just kind of mysterious, and then all of a sudden, it's like it feels like it's overnight. It was like, "Wait, wasn't I just, hearing that modem sound?" You know? And now all of a sudden this. Yeah, it was kinda crazy.
What was that called? I think it was like Edlin commands or something.
For the
Oh,
oh,
I do remember that.
gosh, more coffee. If I remember that, I will likely cry. I'm just saying. Jen's gonna make me cry today because I actually remembered that kinda stuff without looking it up. I will actually probably cry, yeah.
Right. I can't believe I remember that. I think it was just those hours, and hours on the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny when you think like you don't think about something for a long time and then someone brings something up and it's like it all comes crashing down on you again. Like, oh, no, yeah, that's right. And we forgot about that. IRQs, jumpers, and all that
all that
stuff
kinda
is
stuff.
just
It's funny, just, going off of on a wild tangent. The band I had 20 years ago, we recorded an album, and one of our songs was called "The Email Affair," and I actually put that sound on the beginning of it, and actually what the this is so geeky. Um, it was I was actually recording my computer dialing up to, oh gosh, what was it? It was one of the bulletin board systems or something like that, but it
say
was like
CompuServe. Say
it w
CompuServe.
well, I worked at an ISP at the time, and so I had, dial up through them, I think, but I don't know if that's specifically what I was doing for that recording, but it was that kind of level of geeky, you know? It's like,
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
so yeah, that's 20 years ago, for that album, and so that's kinda funny that I just thought
So
of that, so
basically, you are Ross Geller from Friends doing his piano thing. I don't know if you've ever watched Friends.
well, no, I've always kind of
Oh, well,
identified
that
more with
joke fell
Chandler, but,
flat then, didn't it?
it's all good. So Jen, you've fallen into a pattern that I see with a lot of folks. Some have made us more famous than others, but that kind of I accidentally ended up in system administration kind of roles. What do you think caused that that shift for you?
I think it's life, right? I think for everyone. It it's your career kinda, falls into a pattern that's based on life.
Mhm.
For me, that definitely happened. So I um I got married when I worked at IBM, and then my husband at the time, he he got opportunities to move, and also an IT person, by the way. and and so I had to leave that job, not probably something I would have done, right? And shifted because of that. We ended up moving to another state a couple of times, and it was all driven by his role changes, right? So,
Right.
uh, sort of not exactly my choice, but it worked out fine. No regrets, right? Um, and I did a lot of things because of that. I think I never really focused until recent years, the last decade.
Mhm.
I did things like um, crimping cables, Cat5 cables,
Yes.
doing rack mounting servers, doing load balancing for internet startup company, and all of that experience gave me, databases, checkpoint firewalls. It gave me a broad range of skill set,
Right. Yeah.
and I'm not mad about it at all.
No.
It's
No, I think that is something to be celebrated, and I'm glad you're saying that, 'cause I think people need to hear that. I think people need to hear that, you know, even in those situations where they're just being called on to be doing just all this kind of what seems like random stuff, you know, well, I relate it back to, just to bring music back into it, the more I can learn about the other instruments in the band, the more I can learn from their perspective and kind of learn how to be better, anticipating them and things like that. It's the same kind of thing in IT. The more we can have the broader range of experiences, even if we're not doing that. Like, I don't know how to do a Cisco, switch or a firewall these days. I have no idea, but I have some, just enough knowledge to make me knowledgeable about, okay, I know what they're going through and I know some of the things that they need from me. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's good to celebrate.
Yes, it makes you a stronger architect. You look at the whole and not just one piece, right? You understand the different components. Even if you don't know the day to day, you can understand it. Great.
Yeah, I like that. And also, I think there's an element too of kind of learning what you like.
Yes.
So, so what
Yeah.
kind of things stood out to you as far as in that earlier time frame of you're discovering all these things, you're doing all this stuff. At what point did you say, you know what, I want to kind of specialize in this?
Um, that was probably a little over a decade ago when I started doing
Okay.
Citrix again. So I kind of had a little hiatus in between of no Citrix, just
Mhm.
raw system admin. Windows OS, that whole package. And then I had my son in between that, right?
Okay.
So and and it's funny because all of this drove me to this point. So I have to mention the personal. Uh,
Yes,
Oh
we
yeah.
and
like that here.
It's all part of it. I mean, you can't have one without the other.
yeah, and
Exactly.
it is my most important job. Being a parent is my most
Right.
important job, right?
Yeah.
So I started doing Citrix more, and that was just about the time VMware became, virtualization was taken off.
Yeah.
And and it was funny because I remember the VM reps would always have to come in and try to sell um, the and everyone was so negative against virtualization. They couldn't understand it, couldn't see how that was gonna be useful. And
It'll never work.
yes, and here we are today, and
Yep.
everything's a virtual
Oh
machine.
my gosh. You got me red in the face laughing at that. Trying to restrain myself over here.
It's true. I mean, even you go back to those days when you asked for support, and I think we've talked about this before, but companies would say, "Well, you have to be able to recreate it on a physical box before we support it." Okay, that all right. Now it's just a given, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
it was, I
Makes me
think,
laugh again.
the way a lot of, what I saw was, DR purposes. It started with DR purposes, right?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
You can bring up your whole system, virtualized in
and,
2 or 3
and it
days.
is a fundamental shift. I mean, I think I think cloud is going down that same route. It is a fundamental shift that you have to get your head around to be able to understand the impact of what's going on. And sometimes like with virtualization, it's extremely difficult. I will make no claim that I sat there, looked at VMware for the first time and went, "Oh my God, this is the future." No, I didn't do
Right.
that. I was kind of in the same boat. You're kind of like, I don't know about this. This just seems really weird. But I was also in a position where we were racking a ton of pizza boxes, 1U servers for single apps that didn't require that much power,
Right. Yeah.
but that's the way the SLAs were at the business and stuff like that. So it's like, while I was wary of it because it just seemed weird at the time, virtual hardware. What? That doesn't make any sense. It's yeah. Lesson learned is you don't brush off this stuff. Like I've seen people brush off cloud, you
Right.
know, and then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden everyone's doing a little bit of cloud at least, if not
Yep.
more. So it's always interesting. That's why I hate it when people say we will never do this in tech, and it's like, might want to
Yeah.
watch
Never
those
in
words.
technology. That's just a funny phrase, really. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Truly is. I mean, I think sometimes too, and Jen, you can. I think there's two camps on this, and I'm going to test my theory here right now. That there, that there are people that kind of get it, and those that just don't care. It's kind of the way this works when it comes from being from a system administration point. There are people that actually kind of say, "Oh yeah, this makes sense," and and then there's those that just they just do whatever they're told, that kind of thing. But we're not so concerned about them right now. I'm thinking about the people that actually get it. There's like two responses. You typically, it's those that just want to do it, and then there's those that actually start to try and basically make a case for it, um, and they're both valid. So I'm curious where you were on that spectrum as far as was it something you were as passionate about to start saying, "Hey, we should do this because," or just those things like, "Oh, I'd love to do that."
So I'm agnostic when it comes to vendors. I
Hmm.
look at the solution for the use case.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I'm total geek. I mean, I told you I grew up, there was no phone line, like, and, much less a computer, and I went from that to, very innovative. My home is pretty smart. IoT devices, I am a geek, totally. I love tinkering, curious by nature, and finding out how that fits into the use case is always, the solution. The right solution
Yeah.
is for that case. That's it. But yeah, no, it was all about use, how could we use VMware to do um, this better, right?
Hmm.
And um, to give the example of what happened in this one case, uh, because I live in Florida and there were hurricanes,
Mm-hmm.
DR was a big deal to be able to bring up an environment to flip over and be running in a 24/7 critical operation.
Right.
And the data center had poured concrete and sound building and all of that. So it was a
Sure.
whole complete solution. And they outsourced, the DR to a different state to be able to do that, to bring up everything. And the first iteration took a little over a week to bring everything up in a hosted data center environment. And with VMware, it took 3 days.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that connects with a why, you
Right.
know, and when people see that why, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny going back to Jeff's point too. It's I think a lot of what happened early on was we as those geeks weren't really good at explaining why. We just said, "Hey, this is a cool thing. You should do this." And management's going, "Why?" And we're going, "Because it's cool."
Yeah, see, for me, it wasn't even that. I mean, we had Lotus Notes, right, in this company. That brings back just bad memories. But we had Lotus Notes as our mail system, and we had gone through the dog and pony actually from IBM um,
Mm.
on virtualization and this new product called VMware. So me and my colleague uh, came up a whole virtualized, basically, notes environment. Um, and that's when we found out because we were buying our servers from IBM. That's when we found out that, oh yeah, no, you got to recreate a problem on a physical box for us to be able to support it. And right, so we had management buy-in, all that stuff. It was just what we got to do what now to do what. So it kind of killed that project right then and there. But that was the mentality. People didn't understand it, and they thought that it was it was just too different to be able to support the same as physical. Weird times.
They really were. And I don't know how we're gonna look back on our current times, but it feels like they were more weird then than now, but that could just be me. I don't know.
Well, I think part of it is we're older. Maybe a little more receptive to change at times. But I also think with that, you look at the internet when it first started. When it first started out, I mean, I mentioned this with Tobias, the whole hamster dance webpage, right? I mean, that to me was the funniest thing on the internet at the time. I still laugh at it, but that's the child in me. Um, and people talk, I bring that up as an example typically when I'm talking about cloud, in that people are looking at cloud and, oh God, it's this, it's that, da, da, da. It's like, yeah, okay. But and I know this is a ways out, but 20, 30 years, look how much the internet has changed, and the value, don't get into politics, but the value it has, for businesses, for people to be, get all that stuff, download new software updates, Windows. You can't get a disk anymore. I mean, you can, but it's rare now, and you get all your updates. The cloud today is not going to be the cloud of tomorrow. It's going to evolve, it's going to continue. And what we recognize as the cloud in 20, 30 years, we're going to look back at today and go, wow, really? That's crazy. So I can't believe that's where it started. So that's, yeah, my little soapbox.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, I go from there. So
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
go back
I'm
to
sorry.
it's like
I think, as IT folks, we're always changing and evolving with the technology, right? It's a
no, it's
growth and
true.
development process and lifelong learning. Um, I think that's what it fits with me so well. I love to learn. I'm curious, and it's I definitely think I found my passion the last, decade or so with the Citrix remote desktop technology, the digital workspace, and the birth of,
Yeah.
WVD turned a year yesterday.
Wow.
But
I didn't
remote
get a
desktop has
cake,
been around for a long time, RDS.
and I didn't get a card. Didn't get it a card. Oh boy.
We need a cake for the
Blow
I,
out the candles with my
do I need an excuse for a cake? I got one. There you go. Sorry.
No, but that's a great point though. There's a lot of things that are well, I don't want to call them passion-driven projects, but there's a lot of this that's really, I think the more we connect with why we're doing things, the more personal passion we can get into these things and actually care about what we're doing. So the question becomes, at what point did you kind of make the determination that you wanted to go beyond just being the person just doing technology and actually starting to be more of an advocate?
I think, at some point in life, you flip from being um the person that I think the younger version is always taught take in the information, and then you get to a point where you wanna give back the information, right?
Hmm.
The skills and the knowledge that you've learned, and I think that's what transpired for me. I got to the point where I wanted to do that. It's been a while, so you mentioned CUGC Tampa. I've been doing that since the beginning. I think it's almost 6 years now
Yeah.
CUGC's been going, and that was a start for me. It was a small start, because I still had to be, a parent, right, and fit
Right.
all the other things in life, so I slowly become more and more involved, applying for CTA. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't have the confidence as well, as, a woman in IT, it's not always very easy to be confident, and, the CUGC Women in IT mentorship program, which unfortunately we just missed the deadline, it was yesterday for the
We
new
timed this
class.
horribly.
Yeah.
We have this wonderful thing that you can't get in.
Yeah, I
Oh, but
know.
hey, it's still worth talking about because it will open
Absolutely.
again. And yeah,
Yes, and next year. Yes, and it's a wonderful program. So I was mentored,
Mhm.
and here I am, right? So in that time frame, from that short time frame, I applied for CTA, so it's been 2 years, and a little over 2 years, and I have evolved into what you know today, right?
Yeah.
Everything else has been sort of silent, what we were talking about incognito.
Yeah.
Um, I had the skills, I had the passion, I had the drive, but I never shared it. And so this has been my my forward now. And I also have my son is a senior in high school. So I think I have a little bit more time now to afford to community work.
Yeah.
And I've been, full speed ahead since then.
It's cool.
nice.
Uh, and looking, and we've got time. I think this would be a great thing to break down a little bit about exactly how this works. Talk to the uh, woman in technology that might be watching about what that process looks like. You know, is 'cause I honestly, I think there's just a lot of mechanics of mentoring that people can do it in various different ways. So I'm just curious how the women in technology group does that. So just talk a little bit about how that program actually works.
Well, it is a one-on-one, right? So it isn't really a set,
Okay.
standard, because everyone's different, right? It's just like a use case scenario. You
So you're
have to.
assigned a mentor, or just
Yeah, so,
do you choose one?
you are assigned a person, right? So you're
Okay.
assigned a mentee, a mentor, and, last year I had a mentee, and we meet regularly, and we discuss goals and different topics, and what they'd like to work on, how we can help, and then be that person to sort of help steer and cheerlead them into that. And most of the time, it, you know, most of these women already have all the skill sets. They're just not they're not confident enough to step forward and do the things they need to do. And mentoring isn't only for women, right? We have
Right.
male mentors as well. I had some male mentors too with presentation skills, right? Being able to work on my presentation skills, which I'm still working on always. It's always a
Yeah.
process, right?
And I'll confess, that's something that I actually didn't know. I didn't know that part of that program involved, the opportunity for anybody to be a mentor to these women. I when I first saw it, I was like, that's really cool. I just I didn't know that that was actually a possibility. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. And the one-on-one gives you a safe. right?
Yes.
Place to talk freely and share and as much as you want or as little as you want and really get something out of moving forward. I got tremendous for me. It was tremendous. I had to, I was lucky. I had a great mentor and years of experience, and she was able to, and even the other women in the program, even though that wasn't my assigned mentor, I also get good. I can reach out to anyone. Oh, can you give me feedback on this? What do you think about this? Right? And
Hmm.
it's just great having a network.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's well. I just I'm impressed. I mean, I remember telling them this when when they first started it. I was like, really, this is really a good and necessary thing. Anything you need, let me know, kind of a thing. So this is really good to see that this has been so fruitful. Is I think the main thing. I think there's a lot of groups out there that are. Oh, this is going to sound really mean. Like intentions aside, they just don't get it. That it really is about growth. Sometimes it's just about, a feather in the cap or something like that, or like something to put on a resume. This sounds to me like it's really like, hey, let's actually work towards betterment here, is what it really sounds like, and actually achieving the goals you want, not the goals that somebody else sets for you, is what it really sounds like to me.
Yes, it did. And if I had a reveal moment in one of those conversations where it was like I kept saying, I don't feel like I'm ready to submit my CTA application. I'm not ready to
Hmm.
be, I don't think that I've done enough. I'm not worthy enough, and when you know, the question was, and she said to me, she said, "Well, what's the worst can happen? You just apply." And I did. And
Right.
I it was purely a confidence thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that was my moment to say, "Okay, what's the worst can happen?" Now I use that for my gauge for everything.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I probably shouldn't be doing this,
Oh
but I'm
boy.
going to anyway because it's not like they can kick me out. I've already left. But I remember, and I haven't told Jen this actually. Um, I remember looking at some of the applications, and there was a couple that stood out. But one of the things that I was like being really pet peeved on was like people that were just very obviously there to just you know get something, not give something. And I remember that it stood out that there's this person down in Florida that was really wanting to give back. I was like, okay,
Oh,
check mark of approval. I've never told you that. So
no, you haven't. Oh,
yeah.
you made me cry.
No, I really thought that was really awesome. And it's cool. We actually met up in person last year at Synergy for the first time, I think. I
Yes.
think that was the first in person,
Mhm.
and had a lot of great conversations. But I'm actually just to like, I might we'll go ahead and get the tissue now because we're gonna go there. Um, uh, just seeing how your level of confidence from a year and change ago to now is it's night and day. And so when it comes to pouring into it, it when it comes to others pouring into you, that's really great. But I think the difference with you, Jen, is that I've seen you start to pour into others. And so that's where I'm like really that's why I was really excited to have you on today. I was like, I'm really seeing uh just this blossoming here of someone who's taking taking this and just running with it and just saying, oh yeah, there's a lot of good I can do. So I really personally appreciate that. I think that's why what's one of our pillars here is like mentoring is just a huge piece of that. And so yeah, that's just my
You are gonna
piece
make
of
me
that.
cry. Thank you. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so it's great to hear. I just, like I said, I've really gotten to the point where I just want to give back. I feel like I have something to give. I want to share it. And whatever means, if it's presenting in person when we can do that, I'd like to do that. I really
Yeah.
would.
And there's other areas in life that that flows into, at least I find. I don't know if you can speak to that at all. I know that we had a conversation initially about, we were actually talking about some logistics about consulting and things like that, and um, you know, doing. Well, I do a lot of white label consulting work, and I know Jeff, you've done that, and I think Jen, you do some of that as well. This is where you're just dealing with those dynamics, and there's just you just never know what's coming really. So you're just being prepared for that. So I remember having kind of an opportunity to kind of boost your confidence in that, and now seeing you're boosting others. But I'm kind of curious, as far as what other elements of your, and you don't have to get too deep into this, so let me know if I'm out of bounds here. But have you found that having that confidence in your career has helped in your personal life at all?
That's an interesting question. Um, I might be happier.
Well, yeah, I'd say that's an effect, right?
I I think so I think what I found from my personal life is I I'm a person that likes to help.
Mm, mhm.
It makes me feel good. And helping others, sometimes choosing where you focus that energy on, right? Is is an important distinction where some can take advantage of that. And so
Yeah,
I went around for a little while, so this started a little bit before CUGC. I was doing some computer mentoring in the local chapter, trying to find the right place for me
yeah,
where I could give back. They were doing things like for the teens, like a Shark Tank type of project,
yeah,
and I'm not a coder, right? My skill set is is in a certain field, and so it didn't fit. It was rewarding, and I enjoyed every moment of it. But I find that I have a set skill that I want to give back here, and in my personal life, it it has taught me how to separate the good from the bad. Like what not maybe bad isn't the right word. What's not a fit for me. So I've been able to distinguish that while that was a rewarding project to work on, volunteering for that, it's not really my cup of tea.
yeah.
What I enjoy more is sharing all of me, not just a subset.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I think too that there's and we get into the mechanics of this sometimes too, is we get trapped in technology, especially sometimes thinking that there's just, and I don't know why this happens, especially given how broad our field can be, but people get stuck in that mindset of there's only one way to do things. There's only one way to go about this. And so um what ends up happening is you just end up going in either what's called the zone of competence, or sometimes just the zone of excellence, which is good, like you're good at something, but it's not really where your passions are. It's not where you're uniquely gifted. And so that recognition of, what, this is good and has its rewards, but at the same time it's not where I'm fully passionate, and so I want to drive towards where I'm truly passionate. And so it takes that. It's kind of weird. I'm seeing similarities in your journey here of watching where, as an administrator, you just started like poking at different things and seeing what worked, and then when you found what worked, you went for it. And then same, it seems like the same kind of thing here is what you're saying, is like you just tried some different things with that kind of, maybe not intentionality, but just that a desire to be connected with people, and so then he found that and jumped into it, and found all new confidence. And the effect of this is kind of awesome. So what has happened? And let's. I don't want to spoil the story. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a spoiled story or whatever, but let's talk about um the the Windows, or sorry, the USA Windows Virtual Desktop User Group, and how that transpired. Because I think there's a commonality here of, not only that confidence building thing, but of also just, you start to see, hey, there's a gap here. Oh, what can we do about it? And so talk to us a little bit about that whole group, and why in the world you stepped up to.
So there's a group that started out of England and Europe,
Mhm,
that's the WVD community. And it's basically a newsletter, weekly newsletter, Slack channel, podcasts, and a wealth of information. And someone,
yeah.
mentioned on Twitter one day, hey, it would be good if we had all these meetups, like user groups, to do virtual until we can get back to in-person meetings, because one location in Europe, and there's time zones and all of that, right? I found myself waking up at like 5 a.m. sometimes to do some of these virtual events that are in Europe, and
Hmm.
I'm on the East Coast, right? So imagine for someone who's in the Pacific time zone, it doesn't really work.
Right.
So I stepped up and I said, well, from my experience with the Tampa Bay user group for CUGC and being virtual, there's no reason why it had to be limited to one area at this point. And
Hmm.
and so I started it and I said, let's just do the entire country and see what the response is. And the response has been great. We have,
Yeah.
I think, over 130 members,
Mhm.
and monthly meetings once a month, the first Friday of the month, if we don't have a holiday or something like that. And we're gonna have our next meeting actually tomorrow, right?
Oh,
Je-
cool.
Jeff has been into some meetings as
Yeah,
well.
and it's great. I mean, you got you had Jim Moyle and Thomas Willingham, and it's I mean, that's those two guys alive. I've known both of them for a while, and it's you know direct from Microsoft information on WVD, what's going on, where things are going, how things work. Especially Thomas's presentation last month was, I was communicating to him afterwards, like, that's outstanding stuff, man. That's good stuff. In more in depth internal to WVD, and surrounding services that go with WVD. So, yeah, the meetings have been great, and it's if you've got any interest in that area, it's worth attending and being part of.
Yeah, I love to hear that. I've been trying to make the meetings, presentations purposeful and useful for people. There's been a lot of information as it's new and it's coming out fast. It's hard to keep up. I know it's hard to keep up. I have to read something every day, and
Yeah.
so people work and lives. I thought the meeting would be a good place to come together, have a place to talk freely, and we have these great presenters. Actually, tomorrow Thomas is going to bring us some more best practices information, so you don't want to miss it. And then we have Esther doing all the automation stuff with
Nice.
WED and scripts. So again, another useful, trying to uh, give some good information back to the community.
Yeah. Some serious best of breed stuff going on here. So, wow, I'm actually kind of impressed that it was just, yeah, I just decided to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That that's just like, that's crazy. I'll just say that's absolutely insane, and I love it.
I announced it on Twitter, then I had to do it, right?
Once you make it public, that's it. You
Yeah.
gotta follow through.
That did you say, like, "We should do this," or "I'm doing this"? Like, how did that
Oh, no, I said I'm doing this. I actually went to the meetup page and signed up for the group first and then announced it.
I'm morbidly curious, what your mentor thought of that.
Um, Very supportive and you know, I was cheerleaded completely. Yes.
I think I probably know how she felt, but well, because, I mean, honestly, that's one of those evolutions. I gotta say hi to Nick. It's
Hi,
what
Nick.
heroes do. Is that blat is what heroes do.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, honestly, that's really cool. So, um, yeah, it's not yeah, and we have this notion sometimes, in information technology where we see these people doing these amazing things, and we think that they were just born that way, and they just magically do it. It's an evolution, right? It's something where you get to the point where you can't not, it's just natural, and that's something that I think people need to hear too, is that it's not like it's not available to you. Um, it's more of that it's very much possible. But it takes that willingness to grow and that willingness to invest in yourself and to let not only let others invest in you, but also invest in others back. So that's really kind of a key component here of not just mentoring, but just being in successful in technology at all. And so just got to hammer that message home to people. It's not just magic. It doesn't just happen, but but it does happen. So that's really cool.
It does, and on the flip side, it's also okay if you decide that you don't. You know. But I always tell, like, dealing with my 18-year-old,
Mm,
you got to try stuff out. You don't know what you like to do unless you try it. You have to at least try something to find out what a fit.
yep.
What job, anything. What is going to make you happy. If you
Yeah.
don't take that chance and just give it a shot, you're either going to find out you like it, you love it, you hate it, whatever, but you did it and now you know. 18-year-old. I was never that stubborn. Dad's not listening, is he?
Well, if we get what we were when we were kids from our kids, then well, actually, then I, I think Jen's probably better off than you are then. But
Karma has bit me.
Oh, no, I try to remember as a parent, I always try to remember what I was like at that age.
mhm,
Yeah, my problem. This isn't about me, but my problem is I tried to help him avoid those things.
yes,
Yeah. And
it's
just like me, didn't listen. So,
it's a conclusion I've come to, and this is funny. Just it's more of an outside observation because I don't have children, but it seems like the more I hear this kind of stuff, it's always that you know, no matter what you do, your parents are the worst thing that ever happened to you. So,
yeah, well, I being my oldest and being the first, I was in the exact same situation. And unfortunately, the oldest is always the one where the parents learn,
mhm,
and then you adjust for any afterwards. And so I mean, it's tough. It's tough being the oldest because, as parent, there was that, I think it was an insurance commercial with the couple with a newborn baby, washing the baby, getting in the fold, being all careful, and then second kid, the dad's holding the baby in the shower. I mean, I think about all the things that we went through before our first was born, the classes, and it's like, I don't want to say they were useless, but it's it didn't prepare us. Not for the reality of it. And until you're in that situation, it can be it can be difficult. I mean, like I said, yeah, not about me. So I'm gonna shut up now. But
No,
yeah.
I think it's an interesting point though. I think to make it super cheesy, I
Oh,
think our careers are kind of like that too. We get
absolutely.
out of college and think we have this perfect baby, and we're gonna treat it just right, and we're gonna do our thing, and then turns out that that's just not even close, and then we end up just kind of working it out the rest of the time.
You know,
Um, but
I
there's
think
always that, yeah. It's kind of wild how that works out.
now
So we do
somewhat my
have
oldest
a
graduate, sorry, just real quick. He
yeah,
is a COVID graduate.
yeah,
So class of 2020, man. I can't even being the parent, I can't wrap my head around everything that's not happening for graduation. It just has been
yeah,
crazy.
um,
yeah, it is. But
that'll be me next year.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
hopefully you get to do the normal stuff, all of it, enjoy it. Yeah, it's definitely been, and we all know it's been a weird year, but when you're directly impacted like that, it just feels even more weird than what
right.
it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, we have a shortcut to join the USA Windows Virtual Desktop user group. It's not like you have to be doing it to join. It's going to be a great opportunity if you want to learn more and connect with those that are wanting to learn more and teach more. So we have a shortcut to that. You can just go to thrive-it.com/USWVDUG. Say that one more time.
USA.
thrive-it.com/USWVDUG. We tried to make that as least complicated as possible, and I just realized I failed completely on that. So, but anyway, that's a shortcut to the big long shortcut that you would have. So feel free to share that on social media if you like. That's going to be a permanent link to that group, and so any iterations thereof, we'll just change that link to that. So that'll just take you right to the page. So that's kind of cool. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, so let's do some final thoughts.
So,
Jen,
start with Jen.
final thoughts from you.
shameless plug that
Yes.
tomorrow is the October's meeting for the USAWVD group. So sign up, register, and we'd love to have you. And thank you so much for having me. It was truly a pleasure. Almost made me cry.
Okay, then we're gonna change the tagline on the YouTube description to saying how I almost made Jen cry. I'll try harder next time.
There you go.
Oh boy.
Jen, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, final thoughts.
Yeah. So, first off, I just want to say the first time I got an invite to meetup.com, I was like, what is this? This a dating site? It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. I mean, meetup.com. Come on.
It's
Um,
the WVD dating group.
well,
Uh,
no, then that
dating
wasn't
group.
the first time I hit it. It was actually a different tech group used it. And I had to look like, is this a legit link? Because what am I getting myself into here? But I do what final thought. Speaking with Jen, and you've seen her growth where I really haven't, because I haven't known her as long. But she was one of the first people to reach out to me back in late January, early February when I became unemployed, and she went well out of her way to help me. and do as much as she can. So that is, it's a huge thank you, Jen, for everything that you have been able to do. It did, it didn't work out. The whole pandemic thing kind of threw wrenches in it, but again, one of the first out of the blue, it was she is one of, a big reason why this community is as great as it is. So thank you, Jen.
Absolutely. And I've just gotten notice of something interesting here. So let's see here. I've mistyped on my screen. I mistyped that. As I was saying it out loud, I was realizing that is actually mistyped on the screen. So I will get that corrected. It's actually, yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Jeff, Zeno, for pointing this out. It's actually the last part of that US URL is USA WVD UG, not US WVG. So yeah, okay, I'll correct that on the description as well because I think I had that wrong on there. Brilliant. So that is the correct link. So we'll put that up on there on the chat as well. So so that'll go out. So yeah, so anyway, sorry, that was we got to correct that before we sign off here. But yeah, certainly. Cool. All right. Well, I guess time for my final thoughts, isn't it?
It is.
All right. So let's see. Wow, just so much to unpack here. But what I'm going to say is that this is why we do this, right? This is why this is important. This is why I wanted to start all this. Is that I think it's really important to live a passionate and full life, and so that's why we have the pillars that we do. That's why we want to encourage the people the way we do, and I think it's really um, important for us to go just beyond technology, realize that we are people, and seeing things that are working in that regards fills me with joy I can't even describe to you guys. So seeing people grow is beyond rewarding for me. And so I do thank you all for your support. Um, but I am going to ask a favor. We are trying to boost our number of subscribers to the YouTube channel this month. And so if you would please do 3 things for me. 1, hit the subscribe button and that little bell to get notified if you want to know when we're going live. I'm going to be going live a lot this month. And so you'll probably want to do that with the bell just so you get notifications because, it's exhausting trying to get the announcements out everywhere. The second thing is to hit the like button down below because apparently YouTube cares about that. For me, whatever. You can hit the like, you can hit the dislike. It actually it won't keep me up at night. It will absolutely keep me up at night. I'm kidding, but but the third thing, and this is probably the most important thing, is to share this with a friend. So the easy way to do this is to just go to just share with them thrive-it.com/YT. And that lets them check out the channel and subscribe there. So if you don't share this, it's going to be up to us and our very limited powers to do that. So if you would please do that for me this month, just make sure that you get subscribed, help others subscribe. That would be a huge, huge blessing to us so that we can have more of this going on, more great people like Jen coming on. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us here this week, and we will see you next week.